Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for an all new episode recap of today's Days of Our Lives, December 18, 2025. So we start off with Thomas and Jennifer at this point. So Thomas is, staying at home and he's complaining and whining about how he can't be on his tablet and he has to be reading the books and he want to go back to school because they have this winter party. And Jennifer is saying that it's not a great idea. And she was telling him, avoid screen time because of the concussion that he sustained when he had that accident that he already caused, right? And she's saying to him that, it's not a good idea to go back to school because of what's happening with your dad being missing, right? So nobody has heard it from him since he sent those text messages on Thanksgiving. And since then, the police are looking into it. We're not sure exactly what's happening with him, but we just got to keep the faith that he will come back to us, right? So, Thomas is like, you lied to me. Why didn't you tell me this from the beginning? Like, all you adults lie and blah blah blah. And I'm saying if Thomas don't just size it down a bit or like tone down himself, because for one thing, the adults don't have to tell him every little detail, right? Especially to really save his feelings, given that it's still ongoing, right? Maybe Jennifer don't have all the details together, and she doesn't have to tell you anything at all at this point, right? Just keep your little thing, keep your little but quiet, honestly. But anyways, he's there and he comes in this kind of rage towards her, and he's like he's tired of it, blah blah blah, like a boy, little boy. But anyways, she says to him she's sorry she didn't tell him all the information. I would never apologize, but still, she apologized to him. And she said that, look, we just got to keep the faith that your dad is going to come home. And, in the meantime, maybe I should take you and Charlotte to Boston until your dad gets back here. We'll definitely come back here, right? He wasn't for it at first, but then he understood and he came around and he said, okay, cool. So on to Chad and Theo, because I guess they have to rotate the characters every time they bring up this crypt scene, right? So turns out Kristen is not really shaping up really good, and she's suffering from that fever, and the infection might be spreading, and EJ is trying to cool her down, and Tony's there trying to keep the peace between them, but Kristen don't really have a lot of energy at this point because of what's going on with her in her body. So Theo and Chad sit down for a bit to talk about him and Thomas and how their relationship is strange, and he's sorry about that, and he gives his perspective on things, and that they've all suffered, you know their parents being deceased and then having to blame the surviving parent for their absence. And he didn't make sense of it when his mom died, and he blamed his father a lot, and now as he gets older he understands, and it was a lot on his father as well. And he gets what Thomas is going through, and he gets what Chad is also going through, and he said that he's going to look up, he's going to understand it one day, and he will come around, right? So Chad appreciates his perspective on it, and they talk about actually trying to get out of this situation because he wants to get back to them. He's wondering what they think has happened to him, and he wants to get back to them in time. Theo goes back for some water, and he comes back and he tells Chad about Kristen's conditioning worsening, and that they really need to start digging or finding a better way out of here, or they're gonna end up like the guy that was there, the bones that were actually there, right? Now, Paulina is at the office trying to help in any way with Abe, and she sees Abe, and she can tell that he's definitely not in the best of shape. He's worried, he's angry, he's upset about what's happened to his son, and he can't really do nothing to help him, right? So she said, look, you have to look after yourself. Like, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be in no shape for finding Theo at all, and Theo would not want that, right? So he just says he just doesn't like to be in this helpless situation, and he's always been on the force trying to help others, and he can't even help his own son, and he just feels frustrated, so he's useless, right? So Paulina says, look, don't blame yourself, you've done right by him. If it's anybody to blame, it's me. Like, I encouraged him to take the job, and surprisingly, Eve said, look, it's not your fault. Like, Theo's a grown man. He made that decision. And, you know, I'm not angry at you at all for that at all. And she said, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't forgive me for your son not coming back to you. Like, Nothing has happened to the rest of the grandchildren of Stefano, and yet still, they took Theo, and Abe is saying because he's running the company and that's why. But you know, it's just frustrating that we can't really do nothing more. And she's saying, look, everybody's behind you, and the person who took Theo is going to be sorry they did, right? She tells him or encourages him that the Salem PD, the FBI, the ISA is all on this. This is an international task force, and that Theo will definitely come back in one piece. She's assured that, right? Eve also thanks her for being his rock and, supporting him through this whole ordeal. Now, Liam is supposed to meet up with Abe for his, I guess, regular weekly reading sessions or whatever, literacy sessions. And, Julie, who owns the bookshop, tells him that Abe is going through a lot right now. Thea is missing. So he didn't know of that at all. And she said, you don't really read the news. So I said, yeah, I saw something off the mere disappearance online, but I didn't know Thea was related to them. So Julie gives him a little backstory and the family history, regarding Theo, and that Theo is related to the Demiras through his mom, who found out she was a Demira later on. So he's half Demira, right? So again, his heart goes out to Abe because he doesn't, he knows what it is, um to be a parent, and he don't know what he would be doing in that situation if he loses child, right? So anyways, he said who's going to do the session. So she said don't worry about that, Jeremy's going to take over temporarily, right? Now they have their session, and Jeremy's helping him through building his resume. And it's been a while since he really did anything, and the last activities he did were, not legal, right? So Jeremy understands that, and he said that he's been through some, he's done some bad things before, and he's turned his life around, and he just wants to pay it forward. And that's why he's there to help Liam as well. And he asked Liam what he wanted to be, and he said, it doesn't matter because he doesn't think he's gonna attain it anyways. And Jeremy said, like, why is that? So Liam didn't give him a straight answer. He just said, um, if you see Abe, just let him know that I'm thinking about Theo, right? So back to Jennifer and Thomas. So Jennifer wanted to she nearly blurted out the other reason why she's taking Thomas and Charlotte out of Salem to go Boston. So he said, I could tell you're trying to say something. What were you trying to say? So we can tell that she's trying to say to just keep him safe and away from what's going on with the marriage at this moment. But she didn't get into it because Julie came in, and Thomas tells her that Jennifer told him about what's happened to his dad, and Julie said that she's sorry to hear that, and you know that he will come back, just to keep the faith, keep it as strong as a mustard seed, or the lesson that he learned in Sunday school. And he's like, what should I really put faith in? And Jennifer said, put faith in the fact that your dad is going to come home, and we as a family are going to put faith in the fact that he will come back home. Everything's going to be okay. So he did mention to Julie that they're going to Boston for the winter break, and she said that she'll miss them so. And yeah, Jennifer told him to go upstairs to start arranging things, and then she had a moment to talk to Julie, and Julie said that she's gonna miss them, and she's gonna just pray that they come back at some point, as well as Chad. And Jennifer confided in Julie that she would miss her, and that also she's just trying to protect the kids and have them away from all that's going on right now in Salem regarding the Mayer family, right? So Steve really was sure about his keeping his promise regarding coming over to stay with Stephanie and Alex, just to keep Stephanie safe. And Stephanie's not really liking it because, I mean, which grown woman really would like their parent coming in, just to invade in their privacy and their alone time? No one, right? So she said, you're going overboard, and it's just, some weird fan mail, it will blow over. And Steve doesn't believe that. Steve just said, look, with everything going on with the Mary disappearances and everything, I vow to keep you safe. Like, I've seen what happened to you the first time when, you were captured or abducted, something back in the day, and he was not there to protect her. He's not making that mistake again. So anyways, he asked, where's Alex? And she said that, Alex had to step out, go to the office, and he was like, he should be there protecting you and all that. And I'm like, sir, life still has to continue. She's not a little baby or anything. Like, if she keeps the door locked and just be on guard and be aware, she should be fine, right? Alex still gotta work. He still gotta put food on the table, right? So, anyways, they talk about Demira disappearance briefly, and she's worried about the kids, and them being without Abigail already. To lose their father, it would devastate them, right? And she saw her aunt Jennifer was being affected by it all, and you know she asked him also about why is he not helping with that. He said, "Look, I can work from home, and I can kill two birds with one stone. Like, I can multitask. If they need me, I'm definitely here. I can work remotely, right?" So she was just trying anyway to get her father out, but he's not budging. Alex comes in, and Steve is upset with him because he wasn't there to babysit Stephanie at this point, and he said, "Sorry, I had to work at the office, and just know her safety is my top priority," right? And he's glad to hear that. So at some point, he goes in the other room. He asks if they want pizza, and they're there talking amongst themselves because they're not liking new living arrangements with Steve being there. And Stephanie's saying we can't have no alone time, no intimate time with him around. Like, it's just weird, which I agree. Like, why would you want to do that while your parent is in the other room? Like, ugh. So he's saying, like, I'll try to kick him out. Like, this can't work, because he was suggesting they be quieter about it. But Stephanie just doesn't want to do that. It's just uncomfortable. So at some point he comes out, and Stephanie wants to go out to eat, and Steve is like, that's fine. You're not caged to the home, but just know I'm coming out there. So she says, second thought, let's order in, right? So at some point, Steve is looking through the a letter with the gloves and to like analyze it. So he said that it's a letter basically calling Alex's name and basically saying, okay, he's out to get that person, and Stephanie belongs with him, and him or her or whatever, and he's gonna fight for her, blah blah blah. So he tells them that the person is left-handed. So now Stephanie is thinking, Jeremy is ambidextrous. He writes with both hands. So we see in the end Jeremy has a paper and he's writing with his left hand. And I'm saying, really, I don't believe it's Jeremy. For the life of me, I don't believe it's Jeremy behind it. But guys, let me know what you guys think. Who's stalking Stephanie? And at this point, I really don't care for their storyline, because it's either that or they're just overly romanticizing each other, and they're just overly horny, and it's just too much. I don't like them as a couple. They don't have no chemistry, and I just really hate to see them on camera. But let me know, guys. Comment below, and I will see you guys tomorrow.